It's wonderful to be back home again. This is the parish that started me out in Casino, and I don't get back often enough. But I do try to keep up with what's going on in your parish, and the people that were here when I was here. It's been 5 years already. I can hardly believe that, but hopefully my skills have improved a little bit in those 5 years. Every once in a while, we are awakened into seeing Jesus, the loving shepherd, the paragon of peace, the kindest of the merciful, in another paradigm in which he is very challenging, expectant of perfection, and demanding the impossible. Today is one of those paradigms or shifts of perception. To fully understand today's gospel, we need a little background in Hebrew history. Jews have always been realists and have always accepted the concept of divorce. Generally, Jews feel it is better to be divorced than in a constant state of agitation or pain. That said, they also took marriage very seriously and made it very hard to divorce. The laws were intricate and complex, and even following them placed obligations on the couple. So we have in Jewish history a double-sided attitude toward divorce. On the one hand, it was very much in favor of the man, who could divorce a wife without her consent, even for a small thing, like not having his dinner ready on time, or because he found himself in love with another woman. In fact, he was forced to divorce her, even if he didn't want to, if she committed a sexual act away from him. So the laws favored the men mostly. Except for adulterous wives, the men would have to pay a monetary fee to the woman and could never remarry her. To divorce a wife, the man would have to issue what is called a get, which states that this woman is free to marry any other man. And without that get, a woman could do nothing. And even with it, there were some Jews who were forbidden to marry her. If the husband went off to battle and died, and there was no proof of his death, the woman would still be considered married and without a get. Now, these rules were very difficult for women, so that throughout the years, the rabbis would put addenda to the laws, which softened them, and even allowed, in some cases, for the woman to be divorced if the husband were unable to fill his duties because of being paralyzed, for example, or if he refused to carry out his marriage commitments. But that didn't happen very often in Jesus' time. Jesus' comments on divorce today then reflect his understanding of the inequality of the marriage laws of his time, but also the bar of perfection that he brought to every issue, expecting us to be perfect as his Father is perfect. The reading from Genesis today is central to Jesus' understanding of marriage. Jesus understands that the woman was created to be a partner with man and a helper. Finding this one person that can fulfill the partnership is what we call marriage. There is no mention here, by the way, of procreation, but only that the partner who was called woman would become one with the other partner. Only later in the Psalms do we read that oneness expands to create children, and many children and fruitful wives were seen to be an ideal. The gospel then finds Jesus being tested again by the Pharisees. And apparently that test was to see if Jesus knew what the Mosaic law was concerning divorce. And Jesus' answer to them is simply to quote the Mosaic rule, to show that he knew the law. But then, as he had so many other times, to raise it up a notch and attach it to the conscience, to the intent of the act, and to demand even more than the law offered. He says in essence that if God has joined the couple together, no human being should interfere with that. Now in private, with the apostles, he's asked again about what he said, because even in Jesus' day, this would be a contentious subject. His words to the apostles are the ideal. Whoever divorces and marries another commits adultery. Now in Mark, the earliest gospel, there is not an exception to this, as there appears in the other gospels and in Paul's writings. Immediately on this pronouncement, the talk changes to children. And perhaps this juxtaposition is what Jesus was really concerned about. In a divorce in Jesus' time, the woman was the one most hurt. And if the woman were hurt, especially financially, so could the children be. Jesus, in his concern for the poor and the outcast, could see the result of divorce acted out in poverty and oppression, and it was for their sakes that he found divorce such a bad thing. From the beginning, though, apostles and church leaders began finding exceptional circumstances and reasons why divorce might be allowable. In the present day, the Roman Church issues annulments to get around the idea of divorce, though they still make it a difficult process to go through, which hopefully under Francis will soon be more simplified. In Cassina, we accept divorce, probably in the same way that the Jewish rabbis have seen it. It is better to be divorced than to be in constant state of agitation or pain. We agree that the process should not be easy, and we hope couples will try the perfection route and fight for their marriages. I did a wedding a few months ago where I preached on the line, "The two shall become one flesh." And I commented that being one flesh doesn't mean one personality and eradicating the differences between people. I used the image that to make a salad, one mixes oil and vinegar, which really don't mix unless you shake them up. And in a good marriage, the couple has to always work at being one. How long the marriage lasts. I asked the bride and groom to make sure that they kept working at shaking it up. And I think people got the message because all through the reception, people would come up to me and say, "Hey, shake it up." I believe that marriages are hard work, and we need to commit to working at it. For those of you who are married, that is my simple message today. Shake it up. And for those who are not married, know that in choosing to do so, you really need to work at it constantly to achieve that perfect state that Jesus talks about. It's something to be aiming for, the perfect marriage. Will we ever get there? Probably not, but we aim for it. We try always for that perfection. And that is the good news that I want to suggest to you today around Jesus' difficult words on a difficult subject. Good being here.